The ballroom shimmered with golden light, crystal chandeliers reflecting across marble floors. My wife's sister, Vanessa, had spared no expense to celebrate her promotion to CFO of our family law firm. Guests mingled in tuxedos and gowns, sipping champagne, clinking glasses, and showering her with congratulations. I stood quietly near the bar, my suit plain compared to the tailored elegance around me. A waiter offered me coffee, and I took it gratefully, ignoring the curious looks of people who barely knew my name. That's when I heard her voice. Sharp, mocking, lace of contempt. "Why is the coffee man here?" Vanessa sneered, her glass of wine held high as she looked me up and down. The guests around her chuckled softly. Even my wife hid a smirk behind her hand. No one knew the truth. No one knew that I owned 88% of the company she worked for. My late father had started the firm, and I had quietly inherited the majority share, though I chose to remain in the background. I believed in humility, in letting others shine, in supporting my wife and her family without demanding the spotlight. But at that moment, hearing the derision in her voice, watching the people I thought were family laugh at me, something inside me shifted. I didn't respond. Not yet. Instead, I watched as my wife leaned into Vanessa, giggling along. Watched as they whispered behind manicured hands. Watched as the party moved on. Everyone blind of man. They mocked being the one who made it all possible. Later that night, I slipped away, heading to the quiet of my study at home. But when I walked in, I froze. My wife's voice floated down the hall, hushed and desperate. "I can't talk long," she whispered into her phone. "He was at the party." "No, he doesn't know. Just be patient. Once I get my share, we'll be free." My stomach dropped. I leaned against the wall, the weight of her words crashing over me. She wasn't just laughing at me with her sister. She was planning something. Planning me out of her life, out of my company, out of everything I built. The name she murmured next confirmed it. Daniel, one of the firm's junior partners. Slick, ambitious, always hanging around Vanessa like a shadow. I slipped away before she noticed me, heart pounding. Over the next days, I pieced the truth together. My wife and Daniel were having an affair. Worse, she believed that once Vanessa solidified her CFO role, they could push me out, believing I was nothing more than a silent coffee man who didn't understand the business. But they didn't know the truth. They didn't know I had the power to end it all with a single vote. I waited, patiently. 2 weeks later, the firm held its quarterly board meeting. Vanessa strutted in, confident in her new title. My wife sat beside her, smiling smugly. Daniel lingered in the back, pretending to be unnoticed. The meeting began with routine reports. When it was time for Vanessa to speak, she rose, oozing pride as she talked about her plans for the company. Then it was my turn. For the first time in years, I stood up in that boardroom. Before we proceed, I said calmly, "I'd like to exercise my right as majority shareholder." The room fell silent. Vanessa blinked. "Majority shareholder?" I placed the papers on the table. "Yes, I own 88% of this firm, and I've been content to stay quiet, to let the family run things. But after recent events, I've decided that silence is no longer an option." Gasps rippled around the room. My wife's face went pale. Vanessa sputtered, "That's impossible. You don't even work here." I looked her straight in the eye. "No, Vanessa, I own here." The board murmured, head swiveling. Daniel shifted uncomfortably in the corner. Then I turned to my wife. "And as for you," my voice cracked slightly, but I steadied it. "I know about you and Daniel. I know about your plans. You laughed at me, sneered at me, plotted against me. But you forgot one thing. I wasn't blind. I was patient." The silence was deafening. My wife's tears welled, her hands trembling. "Please," she whispered, "it's not what you think." But I held up a hand. "It's exactly what I think. You wanted my company, my wealth. You threw away my love for scraps. So now you'll have neither." I turned back to board. Effective immediately, Vanessa is removed as CFO. Daniel is terminated. And as for my wife, consider this my notice. Our marriage is over. I signed the papers on the table, each stroke of the pen final and liberating. Vanessa's face twisted in rage. Daniel stormed out, cursing under his breath. My wife collapsed into her chair, sobbing. I walked out of that room with nothing but my dignity, and for the first time in years, I felt lighter. In the weeks that followed, the divorce papers were filed. My wife tried to fight, tried to spin stories of love and forgiveness, but the evidence was undeniable. She lost everything she gambled for. Vanessa faded from the company, her reputation in ruins. Daniel moved on to another firm, chasing another shortcut. And me? I rebuilt, not just a company, but myself. I no longer hid in the shadows. I no longer played the role of the silent, invisible husband. I found strength in truth, in self-respect, in knowing that sometimes being underestimated is the greatest power of all, because the man they called the coffee man was the one holding the keys to their kingdom. And when they laughed at me, they unknowingly laughed themselves out of everything.